find that out there in the tack shop?
I tell you, no. Jess likes it too, don't you?
Yeah.
Jess likes it. Okay, that'll do. Yeah, one of my clients knew a guy by the name of Cowboy Bob. And I guess Cowboy Bob made this stuff. And evidently I met him, but, I meet a few people the past 50 years. And so I honestly don't remember him. But by golly, he sent me this gift. I love it. People send me things like this. This is really cool. All handmade,
That is cool.
Baling wire holding things together here.
Do it one more time. Ring us into our session.
Come and get it. Yeah.
Come and get it. Here we go. Well, hey, folks, my name is Dave. This is Steve Edwards. Every Wednesday, we go live to talk about mules and donkeys. This program is 100% about you, your questions, what you're working on. As a matter of fact, we want to hear what you're working on. So you can share whatever questions you've got, or you can just share what progress you've seen. We want to celebrate that with you as well. There's lots of communities out there for the horse. And a lot of horse people think that the mule and the donkey, well, it's just all the same. Well, no, it's not. It's a lot different. And you are the ones that we are relying on to make sure that the equine community knows that the mule and the donkey are made different. And that's why we get together every single Wednesday to talk about it and help you understand exactly how awesome that animal that you have out in pasture, that you have out in the stall, is how awesome that animal is. So there's 3 things that we ask. First thing that we ask is that you share your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather's like in your neck of the woods. The second thing that we ask is that you ask any and every question that comes to your mind. If you ask it, someone else is thinking it. So you can go ahead, be the brave one, ask that question. Folks will think, by golly, that was the question I had. I'm so glad they asked it. And then the third thing is, if you're on Facebook, make sure you tag friends and family who are interested in mules and donkeys or wanting to learn more about equine. Tag them in Facebook or share the link over on YouTube. Matter of fact, if you're on YouTube, you can like the video, subscribe to our page. We've got a new collection of videos that we're going to be pushing out, short clips from this show here, and then some short clips from some clinics that we've done in the past year. We kind of like to space those out and release those as the year goes on. So, Steve, what do you say we go ahead, get into it, get started with today's show?
I'm for it. Let's get her done.
All right, let's do it. All right, over on YouTube, we've got Melissa says aloha from Southern Oregon. Sarah says, hey there from South Dakota. Thanks for doing this for all of us, Steve. You are a living legend in the mule community. How about that? Don't know what we would do without you. She says, also, thank you for answering my calls. Just bought the complete video set. Sarah, you will not be sorry. That video set is amazing. What's really cool about all those videos, though, is that it's a collection from all over the United States, from folks who have spent their life in the saddle all the way to folks who are just about as green as I come, right? City slicker, but wanting to learn the ways of the cowboy and the mule and donkey. So you're going to love it. Let's see. Fabrin's here. Julie is here, says hello. Julie from Texas. Beautiful sunny weather here. Let's see. Steve says, Steve from Burns, Oregon. Let's hop over on Facebook and let's see who's hanging out with us on let's see, on Facebook. I'm trying to get into Facebook. Just seems to give me problems every single week. Okay, here we go. Haley and Mark Williams say, hey, Steve. We've got Sharon and Steve Stott says hello. Linda, the mule servant, and Theo, the sweet one-eyed mule in windy, sunny, rural central Ohio. Ross is watching from Emmett, Idaho. Haley says, it's just me tonight. Mark Williams is working. All right, Haley, we're glad that you're here. Cass says, yes, my weekly dose of Steve. How about that, Steve? Serve you up in a bottle, 1 dose every single week. Cassidy, Iowa, chilly and partly cloudy. Ross Stevens says sunny and 66. Junior Pitts is here. Yeehaw! From Palestine. Patricia Evans, British Columbia, Canada. It's pouring rain and we have gone international. David and Di Scholl watching from the Great Down Under there. International again. Sherry is watching from Jasper, Georgia. Cool and windy here today. Karen is watching from Raymond, California. Steve, all of our friends are here today.
Hey, I wonder if we're going to be hearing from Jolinda now. She called me last night. Actually, last night. which was about 2 o'clock in the morning there in the Netherlands. She says, I'm going to buy a saddle. I'm tired of hurting my mule.
Is that Yolanda?
Yeah.
Good for her. Good for her. Yolanda, we hope you show up. All right, first question here. This one comes in from Ginger, and Ginger put it on Facebook. Now, folks, I've got a list of questions that have been emailed in, but we give priority to the folks who show up here and watch. So if you got a question, put it in there, and we'll get to it pretty quickly here. Ginger says, I have a young donkey who knows leg cues and voice command. Good job. But when he gets nervous during riding, he loses, quote-unquote, power steering fluid. How should I address this when I'm on him and he starts to clam up?
Yeah, okay, well, that's called being a donkey. It's almost like an ostrich putting their head in the sand. All of a sudden they're bothered about something. You know, what happened? You know, there's something happened there, and who knows what it is. But the best thing to do is always use the right, left method. The ask, tell, demand. So right, left, or pick it up. And that don't do it, then right, left, and then harder will do it. Now, I need to know what type of bit she's using, and that would help me. And if she's using leg cues, that's fantastic. Voice commands, I am really hesitant to tell folks to do that because, and I have it all the time. I have people say, okay, my mule can turn on command, okay? Put your hands down, keep your legs quiet, and say, go right. And they don't do it, you know. Come G, and they don't do it, you know. So that's, you know, only thing they hear from us is blah, 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 blah. That's it. But they understand ask, tell, demand, and they understand comfortable, uncomfortable. So I need to know what kind of bits you're using so I can give you an idea of some things to do. And also, are you using spurs?
There we go. So one of the things about that not ask, tell, demand, but the right, left. So folks, you have to know, if we ever meet face to face, everything that I know about mules is because I hear it from Steve. That's what I know. Getting out there and getting in the saddle is so much different than actually hearing about it. And I can tell you that firsthand. I have not spent my life around these animals. I've learned so much from Steve. And so when I got up in the saddle last year, around this time last year, the mule that I was riding wanted to do his own thing. He actually, matter of fact, he didn't want to do anything. And that is what I have learned is paradise for the mule and the donkey, is to just be left alone. So every time we would pass by the hitching post, he would start to kind of venture over towards the hitching post. And I wanted to keep riding. I was having a good time. And so Steve said, what you need to do is when he starts doing that, and he's not listening to you, you do right, left, and he'll stop. And so I was like, okay. And I've heard it a million times. We've done over 60 of these programs, and I've heard Steve talk about it. But getting in the saddle and doing it was a completely different thing. And after I got used to the motion, practice. Of course, I got a great teacher watching me. But after I got used to the motion, it worked. It worked. It was the communication that animal wanted. So when Steve talks about it, he's not joking. Ain't that right, Steve?
Yeah, well, that's right. Because here's the thing: we want to say, keep on going straight. The mule says, I want to go to the right. Well, he's still going to the right. You're trying to stop him, but he's still going. But if you'll say to him, not say it in words, but with your hands, right, left. In other words, listen to me. Right, left, listen to me. And as soon as they do, then pick up on your reins and go and do what you want to do. But if you don't, boom, or it could also be the donkey end to where they just get kind of flustered because maybe you give them too much information. And what I mean by that is people do this all the time. Come on, Fluffy, you can do it. Yeah, go to the right. You know how to do this. You can do it. Don't do that, folks. All you're going to do is fluster Mr. Fluffy. That's what you're going to do. Donkey or a mule, just be quiet, move your hands, move your legs accordingly, and the donkey, the mule will respond to you.
Very good. So while we're waiting for Ginger to get back to us with, you wanted to know what bit she was using. Was there something else?
Yeah, and also she's using spurs.
There you go. So Ginger, if you're still watching, what bit are you using, and are you using spurs? I'll watch for your reply there. Meanwhile, Steve Sparks says, been riding our mules with our new Steve Edwards saddles and pads. Love them. Great product and would recommend them to anyone.
Wow.
Love hearing that. Steve, have you talked with Steve Sparks much? Have you guys had a chance to connect?
We have visited a little bit. He had some other saddles that he was working with and was kind of hoping would make work, and he had bought my pads and did some other things. I don't remember the whole story, but I just remember it was kind of frustrating to him. And now that he's gone over with and using all of my stuff, boom, he's really happy. And let me tell you, this reminds me of a story.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I met a guy, huh?
I said, yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, I met a guy 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago now, in North Carolina, and it was amazing. This guy was 308 pounds, a big boy. Okay, and Mr. New come to my clinic with his mule and was trying to get in the saddle, and he would try to get in the saddle and it'd pull over. Try to get in the saddle and pull over. And finally I said, well, partner, let's do something else. Let's try something else. So I had my saddle. I had just had a custom-made saddle. And I said, let's put that on there. And we put that on there, and I tell you, it's like Mr. New. I talked to him the other day. He just bought some stuff. And he says, Steve, why don't people just buy everything to start with instead of making their stuff work? He says, it works. It says if a 300-pound man can climb in a saddle and the saddle stay in place, that's got to be something to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, one of the things that we have folks asking quite a bit, if there is one tool, one thing that we recommend more than anything else, it is the Ground Foundation starting kit.
Yep.
Has absolutely nothing to do with, oh, this is what Steve says you should have, so you should have it. No, it's absolutely 100% everything to do with communicating to the parts of the nose, the back of the neck, underneath the chin, communicating the way the mule wants to be communicated with. And that's why we recommend it. A lot of times folks will just buy the Come-A-Long rope. They'll come back and say, wow, this thing was amazing. I'd like to go ahead and get the Problem Mule DVD and the rope halter, because we discount that because we really want folks to have that. If there's one thing that folks always keep coming by and just want to add to, it's that Ground Foundation starting kit. So folks, if you don't have that, it's one of the least expensive things on the store, and it is probably one of the things that makes the biggest difference. So I'll put a link to that here in a second. Ginger finally got back to us and said, just a dog bone Snaffle and no spurs. I've only had him a week, so still trying to get to know him. He's 4 years old.
Okay, folks, take those dog bones bits and see how far you can throw it. You don't use a dog bone bit on a donkey or a mule. All you're going to do is stiffen them up. All they're going to do is say, I've had enough, and stop. That's it. They do not work. They create more problems, which she's starting to see right now. Okay, anyway, stay away from that particular bit. Now, next thing, folks, you have to have spurs. You have to. If the donkey, the mule knows how to side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, you are rarely going to use them. And if you do use them, you are barely going to touch him to make it work. Rarely now do I have to hit one pretty hard if he's not wanting to pay attention. If he's flat wanting to do his own thing, you know what? Just like my daddy used to do to me, we're going to take a switch, but it's going to be a spur, and that spur is going to say, you are going to go do this, period. And look, folks, once you do it a couple times, they don't want it. They don't want it no more. It's not like it's evil, No. It's the best tool you can have when it comes down to using your legs. You need spurs.
What I've come to kind of understand from everything you said is that you go into them you go into it with spurs, so you have them when you need them, not because you plan to constantly use them. You've got them when you need them, and when ask doesn't work, when tell doesn't work, you finally get to the point, maybe a little bit on a tell, but you finally get to the point where you need to demand. And quite honestly, all the stories that have come into us, all the stories that you've heard from folks individually about just getting hurt and being put in the hospital and all sorts of safety concerns, it's one of these deals where we respect the animal the way God created them, but we also realize that we have, we believe in what God says in the Bible, that we have dominion over these things. So we respect it, we honor creation, but at the same time we have a responsibility to kind of lead over that. And this is one way we keep ourselves safe, keep the people around us safe, and keep the animals safe as well. Right, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's not an evil thing. I could show you every pair of boots I have has spurs hanging on them. The spurs do not come off of those boots. They stay on there all the time. I don't walk in boots every day, folks. I use tennis shoes or some loafers or something like that. The only time I got boots on is when I'm riding. That's the only time I ride and have boots. But you got to have spurs, and take those dog bone bits and hang them on the wall and say, I repent, and get you something that works good.
Past is the past, free at last.
Yes, that's right.
Let's see here. We got a few more folks joining us over on Facebook. Dan Davis from San Augustine, Texas. Sunny in 87 was going to head out fishing. Then I remembered it's not hump day.
Away from that pressure. Don't pull on them. Right, left, right, left. That's what's going to make the difference, like we were just talking. Now, when you're coming up to an obstacle, folks, and the animal doesn't want to do it. Now, I prefer to use my Snaffle bit, my mule rider's martingale, because my communication is crisp and clear. Crisp and clear. So when you're training obstacles and this sort of thing, and you're not showing with finish bit, you're going to use the Snaffle bit, my mule rider's martingale. And you're going to go to the right. They're going to see the obstacle with their right eye. They're going to go to the left. They're going to see the obstacle with their left eye. Now right. Now left, just like you do with your hands, right, left. But when a mule rears, listen, folks, mules don't rear unless you are over pulling on them, and that has to be the biggest problem. Now, I need to know what bit he's using, and I also need to know what if he's got spurs or not.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of bits just have a lot to do with so much of what it is people are trying to do. Do you get a sense that people put as much thought and effort into selecting the right bit as they should, or is it just a lot of misinformation out there? How is it that folks wind up with the wrong bit?
Especially a lot of horsemen, they've collected bits over the years because we are an agrarian people. In other words, we need tools to do a job. So if somebody says, this is the handy-dandy whammo thing, then it's going to work. And that's what I try to get across to people is it just because I say it, I think that if you'll see my videos, you'll not only see me saying it, but you'll see the end result. Now, going back to this, when you go into a tack store, David, you see a wall with bits. I mean, there's hundreds of bits. I've got one of my clients that did a book on bits. And I ain't kidding you, it's 1.5 inches thick. And it talks about bits and their purpose, when and how, and this sort of thing. I've got it broke down pretty simple with a mule. With a mule, my mule rider's martingale to build a foundation for 6 months. With a mule, my mule rider's martingale for fixing a problem. For a finished mule where I'm going to ride one-handed, it is strictly the trail rider bit. And with those two, the simplicity of those two bits, they'll do the job for you, whatever you need to do when it comes to riding. Of course, driving's a different situation.
All right. So Kevin just got back to me as we were chatting there. He says, Reinsman curb bit with spurs.
Good boy. Good boy on the spurs. Reinsman curb bit. All right. Now, Reinsman's got a lot of curb bits. Does the shanks roll on the side, and does it hinge in the middle, right, left? So in other words, does it hinge on all 4 points? It's called a correctional mouthpiece.
So while he's answering that, why don't you describe, because is that similar to your trail riding bit?
It could very well be, but there are so many different types of curbs. And what I mean by the curb is the mouthpiece itself that sets inside the mouth. Some are smaller, some are higher, some could be a cathedral bit, it's called. There are a lot of different mouthpieces that it could have. So if I got an idea, if it's a correctional mouthpiece, the big thing, Dave, is we got to remember is that the palate on a mule is different than it is a horse. And here's the problem. I've been like you folks. I have got tons of bits, tons of them that I have tried over the years. And I got custom-made bits that I have worked with as well. And I finally come down to the point of how the port sets in the mule's mouth. So what I did is I took the average port that we have and I tipped it forward, or I tipped it backward, I mean. And when you lay it down on the table, you can see how it comes up off the table where the average horse bit lays flat. So in other words, you're not hitting the palate good. So, and maybe he's got some good hands, but it's the bit that's burning the mule.
So he says he's got shanks. He says shanks roll and hinges all 4 points, very similar to Steve's bit. This is my first time using it.
Yeah, it's a correctional mouthpiece, and it's made for a horse. You know, it's meant to be used one-handed, but you can use it two-handed to do a correction. It's not a quote training bit, but if you need to correct something, you can. So when a mule rears, it is rare for a mule to rear. And if a mule rears, that means we overpulled him. So all he has to do is keep his hands quiet and keep it down and go to the left, let the right ear see it, right eye see it, and then go to the right, let the left eye see it, right, left. But don't go straight on. That's where people make a mistake. They go straight on and say, okay, you don't want to go, we'll make a circle and come back and do it again. Don't make circles with these mules, folks. All you're going to do is make them run through their shoulder. So when you're coming toward it, keep your hands down quiet, keep your hands ready, and then when the mule starts to go to the right, you move the left. When he starts to go to the left, you move the right, and use your legs at the same time. Right, left, not both legs at the same time. Not both legs, but right, left. In other words, right brain, listen to me, left brain, listen to me, and get forward motion that way.
So when you're doing it with the hands, of course, I don't have enough experience. I can't visualize what it was like having the reins in my hands. But when you do it with the hands, Linda's asking, can you show me the exact right, left hand motion? She says, I know that their noses are sensitive and I want to get it right.
Yeah. So basically, I've got my hands here like this. And I'm going to go right, left, and that's ask. And then I'm going to tell, right, left, and then I'm going to demand, right, left, and then I'll come back again, I'll right, left. So in other words, I've been through the response. Remember, we get this from the mare. She's the lead mare. She asks you not to come no closer, she pins her ears. Then she tells you not to come no closer, then she pins her ears and she swishes her tail. And then she demands, ask, tell, demand. So all we're doing is using the communication skills that the lead mare is going to do. So with my hands, I'm going to go. Notice my elbows are barely moving, folks. I'm barely moving. I'm mostly using my wrist. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Now, my video,
there's a lot of them.
Huh?
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of videos.
Yeah, I've only got a bunch of them there. Oh, shoot. It'll come to me in a second.
How to communicate.
I talked a lot about that.
Mule, first drive, first ride, problem mule, foundation colt starting, donkey saddle foundation training.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of them memorized here.
Yeah, well, that's right. I will too. It'll come back to me. Basic equitation.
Oh, okay.
Basic equitation. The basic equitation, folks, you can see me working with one of my apprentices who's a real good apprentice. He's up in Montana, and you'll see me working with him, showing the mule how to side pass, turn on forehand, and how to use your hands.
Very good.
But hopefully that'll help you when you saw me use my hands like this.
Yeah, that was helpful. All right, let's see. Hop back over on YouTube. We got a lot of folks watching on YouTube today. Very grateful for y'all joining us here. Danny says, is it good to use the right, left method on the trail trying to get your mule to slow down? Danny from Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah, yes, it is good. Remember, anytime they're doing something you don't want them to do, then you're going to use the right, left method. Okay, what people tend to do is go around in circles. and you can't really go around a circle at the Grand Canyon, just to give you an example. But what you want to do is, yes, what people tend to do is pull on them, and keep pulling on them to make them slow down. Don't do that, okay? Now, number one, this is what's going to happen. The mule is going to try to protect himself and walk like he wants to walk. So he'll stick his nose out, and he'll throw his head in the air, and he's got you. That's why I developed that mule rider's martingale. As soon as he picks his nose out, the martingale bites him. As soon as he throws his head in the air, the martingale bites him. In other words, it makes him uncomfortable. So that he'll keep his nose on the vertical and his balance on his head. So yes, what you're going to do is you're going to go right, left. And you're going to, remember folks, you have to ask, tell, demand. So right, left, he doesn't slow up. Right, left, he doesn't slow up. Then I just say it like this, folks. Rip his face off, okay? And I hate to say it like that, but look, a mare spins and kicks.
Yeah.
All I'm asking you to do is be a little bit more harsher, because this mule, listen, if he bleeds a little bit, it'll grow back. It's not a big deal, folks. If these corners of his mouth, it's not a big deal. You know what happens most of the time, Dave? Because people are using smooth Snaffle bits because they want to be nice to them, and they end up cutting the tongue, splitting the tongue.
Right.
And you won't do that with my mule rider's martingale, with my double twist wire bit. You won't do that. But if you just will do it. Now here's the thing. Get this in your mind. Don't wait till you're out on the trail to do it. Practice at home. Practice at home. Get them to listen to you. And when you go right, left, sit down in the saddle. Relax down in the saddle. And sit there like that, okay?
Very good. So real quick, we had a couple fun pictures come in the last couple weeks. I wanted to share these with folks. Steve always gets messages from folks sending pictures and asking questions, and it's always a lot of fun. So Steve got, let's see here. There we go. Steve got a picture here. This one was from Ginger. So Ginger, is this you? Was this you? Who's watching with us? My very first time sitting on my mammoth donkey, Lucas. I started groundwork following Steve's advice for a week before I mounted up, and he was perfect. So it was a lot of fun to see that. Great picture of Ginger and Lucas there. Next picture we had, this was from Isabel. She sent that in, and what's she riding? Is that a cowboy saddle, Steve?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is my son Mo on our Fay with your saddle, the cowboy saddle. Great. Thank you so much for creating this gear. So this was a lot of fun to see. Look at those ears. How about those ears, Steve?
Yeah, ain't they great? That's one of the things my wife says. Look at them beautiful ears.
Yeah, fantastic.
Those are great.
Then this one right here, this one was cool. This was from Jason. Jason says, my mule is way more comfortable with your saddle. That was a pretty cool picture there to capture, and look at him just standing there, hanging out, waiting for whatever's coming next. That's heaven right there for that animal.
That's absolutely. I hadn't seen Ginger. I hadn't seen that picture yet. So I just pulled up. That's awesome. Look at them beautiful ears, huh?
Yeah.
Woo!
Fantastic.
Man.
Love getting those. Folks, you can send those pictures to Steve anytime you want. Matter of fact, I meant to mention this at the very beginning of the broadcast, and I forgot to. We are working on some stuff here, and one of the things, if you can recall the first time you came to Steve's website, maybe hadn't heard of Steve Edwards, hadn't really heard of Queen Valley Mule Ranch, but you were looking for something that made sense with your mule and donkey, you check out the website, and eventually you find some reviews and testimonials from folks who say, this works. Steve talked to me on the phone, and all of a sudden you had the confidence to say, you know what, it worked for them. I like Steve's approach. I feel like I can do it too. Well, what we're starting to do, and I'll put this link out at the end of the broadcast too, what we want to do is we want to hear your story, and we want to be able to put your story on the website. So somebody who's going, looking to get that come-along rope and just thinking, man, I don't know, is this really going to help me? Well, if the come-along rope has helped you, we want to share that story with new folks. We want that story to impact and help other people because as good as it is, as fun as it is to be a best kept secret when it comes to mule and donkeys, we don't want to be a secret. We want everybody to enjoy their animal. We want everybody to feel like a success when they're training. So I'm putting a link in the comment section right here. Send your video testimonials. We got this app, makes it really easy to use your phone to record a real short video answering a couple questions, and then with your permission, it asks you right there in the app, with your permission, we're going to include some of these videos on our website because we want folks to know that if it works for you, it can work for them too. We want them to experience the same amount of joy and just success that you've experienced in their training. So I'm putting it in the comment section, and I'll share it again at the very end. It's very easy, probably take no less than 5 minutes. We would love to hear from you. Steve, how about we welcome some more folks who are over on Facebook and YouTube? We've got... let's see here. Man, I'm scrolling back up. A lot of folks been coming in. Yolanda's here. All right. So we have gone international again. Yolanda, we're glad that you're here. Thanks for joining us all the way from the Netherlands. Let's see here. James is watching from Holden, Missouri. Ross, let's see. Did I see a question from Ross? I can't remember. Yes, if you are just starting to work on picking up the feet, how many sessions does it normally take? I'm on the 9th session and still just holding the foot up for a second and then putting it back down. I tap again, but the foot is already back down. Steve, this is a big deal. Let's talk about it.
Well, it's going to take the Come-A-Long Hitch. I actually have talked to him a couple times, and he told me how he's on doing 9 now. Okay, it's more our timing than anything else. It has to be, because what you want to do is when you see that foot starting to come down, then tap it. See, he thinks if he puts it down, he's going to be more comfortable. But when he starts thinking about putting it down, that's the time to tap him. Usually by the time people see it, the foot's already down. So you may have done 9, but they're not, the timing is not there to tell the foot stay up. And always have the Come-A-Long Hitch on there. You might put that one link in there that we have on that one back foot that I worked with.
Yeah, well, that's a great example, not just of the patience that it takes and just the resilience that you have to have, but it's also a great example of how the come-along rope comes into play and what timing looks like that you're talking about here, being able to catch it right when it starts to happen so they can put 2 and 2 together. So very good question there, Ross.
I got to look at that Mo again.
Yeah.
That's a trail light saddle.
Is that a trail light saddle?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a trail light saddle.
It's a popular one.
Yeah, boy. Oh,
only 18 pounds.
Yes.
It's a real lifesaver for a lot of folks who can't heave up that.
I can't make it go bigger.
What's that?
Gingers, I'm trying to make it be bigger.
Oh, yeah. I think it came through kind of small.
Okay.
Jana's watching, and she says she received her grazing muzzle. So, very good.
Good.
Those mules, they can't stand prosperity.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's see here. Let's see, James. All right, Rip is watching. Rip's been lots of communication. Really appreciate it. He says, hi, guys. My mule does as he should to the left, walk and trot in the round pen, but has gone 100 times to the right with martingale setup and would not drop his head and stays in trot. What do you think?
Is he using his saddle or is he using a surcingle?
Now, why would that matter?
Well, because what happens is he's using, if he's still using that horse saddle he was telling me about, when the mule was going to the right, that bar is going into his shoulder, and so he's trying to stay away from it. So when he tries to bend and go, he can't do it because of the bar banging on him. He may want to also adjust the breeching a little bit, but But that bar, he's talking about wanting to get another saddle, and I understand that. But use the surcingle, folks, when you're doing the martingale. It works the very best. But see what happens there if he's using martingale. Sounds like he's using a saddle.
Yeah, we'll see what he says here. Steve Sparks over on YouTube says, a mule is smart enough to know if you are wearing spurs or not, and will respond accordingly.
Yes. Yep.
How true it is. Susan says, watching from Western Pennsylvania, my husband wanted me to give him a hand in the barn, told him he would have to wait. Got to listen to Steve. Honey, you're going to have to wait. Steve is on.
Oh, my goodness. That's fantastic. Oh.
There we go. I'm sure he's a wonderful man and completely understands. Matter of fact,
Absolutely.
He probably says, you know what? I need to come in. I need to hear what Steve has to say, too. Sarah over on YouTube says, how old should your mule be before you put a saddle on him or her? And when is the soonest he can hold me in the saddle?
Okay, folks, what we have to be concerned about here is the cartilage on the knees has to be together so that you're not banging bone on bone. So it's going to depend on if the knees are closed. And usually your veterinarian's the best one to tell you because they'll run a sonogram on it or something like that. My favorite way to know is if the hairs are straight on the knees, they're usually closed. If they're curly on the knees, they're usually open. Now, usually a general rule of thumb, I will start riding my mules and my donkeys in the 2 and 6 month old range, 2 years and 6 month old. I will start putting a surcingle on them as soon as I wean them. I will start using a surcingle with a breeching and breast collar. I'll use a surcingle. I will start saddling them, and this is important, folks. Get this in your mind. Don't just think, okay, I'm just going to put this kid's saddle on there or this old used saddle I got on there for now. No, folks. You are building a foundation. You want everything to be correct. And that horse saddle will cause them some discomfort, and you don't want to get them to start mistrusting you, okay? One of the things, David, is these animals will take and get brace into pressure. Mm-hmm. They don't show pain like horses do would get flighty and blow up, So do everything right, folks. If you're going to start this baby and you've taken the time to use your best mare and raise it and this sort of thing, do all the steps right. Use your surcingle first with a rope halter adjusted, and then into the mule rider's martingale. And then when you start saddling, look, folks, the saddling's not a big deal. It's the small part of it, okay? And what scares them is when you tighten it too tight or you do it incorrectly. So use a surcingle. And then usually by about 2 years, I'll start setting the saddle on them. A pack saddle is what I usually like to use, my pack saddle. And then I'll take that pack saddle and I'll pony them out. I'll take that pack saddle and I'll put them in a round pen, let them walk around, get used to it. But usually my pack saddle is usually my first saddle I put on them.
So Rip comes back and he says he is using the surcingle and breeching. So he's got that with the mule rider's martingale.
Okay. All right, so here's my next thing then. If he's using the surcingle and the mule's not going too good, has he had his teeth balanced and framed up? And he has had a chiropractor look at the shoulders and the back and make sure that that's correct.
Okay. So there you go, Rip. Let's hear on that. While we're waiting, Dan Davis says, okay, Steve, I've been riding one of my mules for about 3 miles through the national forest now, and I need some spurs now. And there are more spurs than you can shake a stick at. So how do I pick out my first set of spurs? I'm not worried about looks, just want something that will work. Could you recommend a few that would be a good start with? Where is that basic equitation video? I'll get the basic equitation information. Spurs, Steve.
Hold on just a minute. Stay right there.
All right. He's got something. Steve has only walked away from the camera once, I think, in this entire time. Of course, one time the table collapsed too. So when he walks away from the camera, you know he's got something. Right there. Yeah, now I can see him.
These are spurs. These are made with a rasp as you can see there, they've got the smooth side on the inside and the rough on the outside, and these are handmade with jingle bobs on them.
There you go.
And notice one of my favorite things.
Yep, there you go. Cavalry right here.
That's right. So my spurs are handmade. I know a lot of good spur and knife makers, and I collect these things, and so they're handmade. So I would tell you, if you're going to buy a spur, you want to buy something that is heavy, okay? Now, your boot has to have a spur shelf on it so that your spur lays on the shelf. And when it lays on the shelf, it's going to stay in place. Now, notice this has a chain that goes underneath the heel when you're riding what's called an underslung boot. In other words, the heel comes down at an angle. It doesn't come straight down like your walking boot, but it comes down at an angle, and it's underslung so that you would use, that's when you'd use an oxbow stirrup. But these are just an example of some of the spurs that I have. I'm going to the Andrada Ranch tomorrow, David.
Nice.
So I've loaded my boots and spurs inside my truck. I started to bring some to show them, but I didn't know what we'd do. But to answer your question, folks, this spurs, they weigh quite a bit. They're quite heavy. Now, the rowel, this part right here, the rowel, is going to depend on you. It's more the looks and the tradition than anything else. I used to ride Chihuahuas, and that spur is a Mexican spur, and it looks like it's got 16 penny nails on them. I mean, it used to flat bite a horse when I used to rake their neck, but I don't care for that anymore. So it's more looks than anything else. And then this part right here, this shank is going to depend on the type of horse that you have, or mule or donkey that you're riding, as to how long you're going to have it or what kind of shape it has. So it's going to depend on how you are setting in the saddle as to how this shank needs to be. Now notice this shank here. Notice it curves inside.
Yeah.
It curves inside. So it curves in toward the animal. So I've got some of them that's called a lady leg, and it really comes up high. I got some that come straight out. When I won the world championships, I had some boots made and some spurs made at the same time. But yeah, that's kind of a weakness of mine, the spurs. And these jingle bobs,
they're pretty cool.
yeah,
There's
when I walk,
what's that?
When I walk, that's what they sound like. Ching, 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 ching. Yep.
There's an episode, I can't remember which one it was. It was sometime last season. And we did a whole thing on spurs. You brought in about 4 or 5 different pairs of spurs to share about that. Yeah, it's spurs and hats. You guys can't see it. Let me see if I can. Maybe you can. Just there over Steve's, your right, his left, you can see you can see some hats right there. So hats and, yep, here we go. Here we go. See, at the ready. He's got another one at the ready. The man doesn't know which hat he's going to feel like wearing at any moment, so he's got the other ones at the ready. This one here I've been wearing all day. I've been working around the house here. We got mesquite trees, and they're mesquites just grow overnight this time of the year. So I've been my chainsaw out there, and I've been working and cutting mesquite and stuff, but a steak always tastes good with mesquite. Yeah. Margie's watching, says, hi guys, Margie back from Alabama, cold Alabama. We're glad you're here, Margie. Jana says, I always ask what type of bit an animal likes when I buy. Almost always they say, oh, she's great with anything. So it's best to listen to Steve, she says. Is this Jana from Wyoming? Jana Griffin from Wyoming. Yeah. Hey, Jana. Good to hear you. Donna is watching from Cibolo, Texas. It's 85 and beautiful today. Let's see. Says, I have an 11-month-old who is very challenging. I would say no matter what type of species it is. If it's 11 months old, it's going to be challenging. I'm new mule owner. He was very easy to handle when he was younger. He has gotten much more touchy and flighty as he's gotten older. I'm wondering, Steve, are you going to say that maybe that animal needs to have brain surgery?
Yes, brain surgery. Yes. In other words, get him castrated. Yeah, and also, folks, got to remember this. When you castrate your mules, your John mules, always pull that wolf tooth. Mm-hmm. And also, same thing with your mollies. When they hit 6 months old and you wean them off, pull them wolf tooth. Get that done, because that makes a big difference in their mind as well. Yep, he needs brain surgery.
Yeah, she's concerned about how firm she needs to be with them. So it sounds like get brain surgery and then reevaluate, come back. Does she need any videos or anything right now, or does she just need to come along rope, ground foundation work, get brain surgery, and then see what happens?
Right, the ground communication kit is the most important thing. I don't know why people let these young John mules go so long. Listen, folks, when those testicles are down, I am cutting them. It makes such a difference in their mind. That can be one of the most vicious animals in the world. Those stud mules, they're horrible. They can be terrible.
So Casey is watching, and Casey sent in a lot of times when there's a long question, I'll kind of shorten it down. But Casey had a really good story here, so I'm just going to read it. He says, I have another question for you. I haven't heard much on this from you and haven't heard it asked before from what I've seen so far. It's a bit lengthy, but it does require me to do some storytelling, so bear with me. I think he's a good storyteller. My Kevin is a complete goon. He's 6-year-old John, still a pup, and his temperament is generally that of a big puppy dog. He loves attention, any kind of attention. If he's not getting attention, he will force you to pay him attention. For example, one day I was digging thistle in the field. Kevin kept taking off with my bucket, then my shovel. I'd chase him down, scold him, go back to work. Short time after, I'd feel a tug on my shirt tail. I'd swat at him, get out of my space, go back to work. Minutes later, he is again tugging at my shirt tail. Again, shoot! Kevin, get out of my space. Moments later, I feel a tug. I turn around. Half of my shirt is hanging out from that mule's mouth with him standing there like an idiot, swinging it around playing. Neighbors got a good show, I'll bet. I guarantee my neighbors thought through the woods think that I'm one mean wife to my husband, Kevin, and with all the back and forth I do. Ha ha. He loves racing me back and forth through the field, more or less. I feel he loves laughing at me because I'm chubby and I don't run as fast as he does. But he loves to play. We have a thistle for come up, a whistle for dinner, and a whistle for hide and seek. Yep, he knows each whistle and what that means. He particularly loves the dinner whistle and the hide and seek game. They got a good relationship here. I left cedar trees in his field for some shade, and I'll sneak out there without him knowing. Let the hide and seek whistle out, and he comes looking for me. It's the silliest thing. When he finds me, I take off and hide again. Here he comes, ears radaring for Mom. So I guess my question is my goofball's mentality an issue? Me playing with him, is it creating problems? I absolutely love that he has such a personality, but I do understand the kid's got to grow up eventually. He does take the come-along serious, I can say that. And when it's on, the playing is no more. Mom is serious at that point. But how do you feel about mules that just love to play, love to be near their people, even if it's just sitting out in the field, like Eeyore, on his butt, waiting for Mom to finish cleaning his stall? I'd love to send you pictures and videos of my Nimrod just being my fourth and largest child. People get such a kick out of his personality. I don't want to change that. Perhaps with the time, Big Baby will grow up. Big Baby will grow up some. So what do you have to say to her?
Well, you got to figure it out. Casey's a female, right?
Yeah, I figured that out.
Yeah, all right, got the deal. Okay.
Sorry, Casey.
Yeah. Anyway, so folks, it is playful right now, and yes, it's kind of fun to do. But you don't have a dog here, folks. You got a mule, and unfortunately, it can get pretty tough. Dave, I used to have one of my clients that thought it was really cute for his young mule to rear up in the air and put his legs over both sides of his shoulder. you know. And anyway, long story short, he ended up hurting the owner. I personally, folks, would I'd tie the mule up, or I'd put it in the round pen with a surcingle and give it a job. It's okay to go out and play hide and seek, but when they're getting a hold of your shirt and stuff, that can be quite dangerous. And I can tell you some awful stories of people who have had, like even their little kids, have the mule just literally rip the shirt off of them, trying to attack them. At first, it's funny, but it can be vicious. So, take this with all the sincerity in the world. Give the mule a job. Put him in the round pen. Put the surcingle on him. Give him a job. Give him something to do while you're doing your thistles. And if you want to go out and play hide and go seek for a few minutes, do it. But remember this. This is important. You can come into his space. He's not allowed to come into your space ever, because it can be extremely dangerous, very dangerous.
So, maybe the takeaway there is the personality, the energy, all that stuff. It's great to have. Let's have some intentional direction for it. Let's not necessarily try to, take it all out, but let's redirect all of that energy and make sure that we have, kind of like parents. Casey says, mama, kind of like parents have to do. It's lots of fun, but you need to have some of those boundaries so that everybody winds up staying safe. Is that a good way to kind of take everything you said and say, direct it? Yeah, direct it. So here's the thing, folks. When you see two mules or two horses playing together, they rear up at each other, they bite each other, they kick each other. You don't want to get there. You are the herd leader. He is not allowed to come into your space at any time. He's not allowed to do it, okay? So if it was me, I would take the mule and use it for a training time, because he's going to want to be with you. He's going to be kind of throwing a fuss. Put him in a surcingle. Put him in the rope halter or the martingale. Give him something to do, because he's going to want to move around. It'll train on him. It'll give him a different mindset. And then if you want to do a playtime, remember the key thing is he's not allowed in your space. You don't want to get to the point of some of my clients that end up getting hurt because they thought it was playful, and the day that animal bit them, because that animal thinks that's playful, is the day that it comes home to you. Yeah. Stella over on YouTube asks, how to get a donkey to back from the saddle. Colorado weather is great. So let's see. How do we get one of them Colorado donkeys when the weather's great outside? How do we get them to back up while you're in the saddle?
Okay. Number one, the tool we use, Snaffle bit. The tool that I prefer, my mule rider's martingale, because it keeps you from having additional problems. Because here's the problem, is that when the mule and your donkey don't want to do something, they'll get a hold of the bit, they'll stick their nose out, they'll throw their head in the air, and they got you. Now, when we're training, we want to train one half of the mule at a time. Right brain, left brain. Remember, they don't have the cranial lobe that tells the right side what the left side's doing, or the left side what the right side's doing. So, I'm going to take my hands. I'm going to have a snaffle bit in my hands, preferably my mule rider's martingale. And I'm just going to take my hands, and I'm just going to hold my left hand solid, and I'm going to work with my right brain. I am not, get this in your head, I am not going to use my legs. No legs, only hands. We want to develop neck reining. So, I've got my left hand solid, and I just bump with my right hand. Bump, bump, bump. I'm quiet, but all I do is bump. Just keep bumping. Okay, now as this happens, the donkey, the mule, is going to drop his head. When he does, my hand's quiet. Now, as soon as he drops his head, I go back to bumping that right rein again. The donkey's thinking, okay, if I drop my head, you're going to quit bumping me. Well, that's what you did, but that's not what you're going to do now. Because now you want a shoulder to move. So now you're bumping it. Now the head drops and the shoulder moves. Now you stop it. Then you pick it up right away again and you start bumping it again. Now he's thinking, now you're going to let go of me. You're going to quit bumping. when you go, when I drop my head and I move my shoulder. But now you keep bumping though. Same thing, bump, bump, bump. And will you get tired? Yes. But if you stop, he's not going to learn. You have to keep it up. Now, finally, a foot moves. I got my backup started on the right-hand side. I am done for the day. The next time I do it, I'll do the right-hand side, those 3, and then I'll add 3 more. And I do the same thing on the left-hand side. I hold my right side solid, and I bump with my left hand. We can see that on the how-to video. Oh, the donkey training video.
Okay.
Yeah, that right there would be helpful. But always remember, folks, don't pull on them. Anytime you pull on a mule or a donkey, they're going to brace you. They got you.
Another question here comes in from Melissa over on YouTube. She says, I know of a carriage driving trainer in England who trains horses with a soft rubber bit. Why won't these work with a mule or donkey? Thanks, Steve.
Well, I can tell you that the people who are training with the soft snaffle bit that I've seen, they've had lots of runaways. Mules, donkeys do not care about their mouth. They will get a hold of that bit and they will take off with it. They don't respect their mouth. They don't respect bits in their mouth. They can control it. It's not a horse. A horse, people are disengaging the hindquarters to keep them from running off. Not with a donkey, not with a mule. What they do is they'll run through their shoulder. So when you pick them up, try to take them in a circle, or you pick them up and try to control them, they will run right through their shoulder just as fast as they do straight ahead. So, you are certainly welcome to try that rubber bit, but I'm going to guarantee you, one day they're going to grab that bit and take off running. They're done. This is not a horse. And also remember, a lot of bits are outlawed in England as well that we use here and they can't use there.
Let's see here. Lots of awesome folks hanging out. We're having, let's see, Warren hopped in a few minutes ago. Steve, it's Warren from Prescott Valley. Warren, we're glad you're here. Let's see. Joy is watching. Hi, Steve. Hi, Dave. Starting off cool here in Maryborough, Queensland, Australia. International. There we go. Joy, it's good to have you.
Yes.
That was so Ginger earlier. That picture, that was Ginger who's joining us today. So very good. Glad that you sent that in, Ginger. Thank you. David Pingelli says sorting cattle tomorrow with Steve all day tomorrow with Steve Edwards gear. Love it. Yes, David. Love hearing from you.
Yep.
Let's see here. Ann Gunham says, love my trail light saddle for both my mule and my jack donkey. That's actually one thing that I'll just say real quick. We won't take a whole lot of time on this, but folks will say, well, I've seen your saddle on a small 14.2 hands high mule, and mine is it's too high. It's over 16. It's too big. Well, that's really the difference maker, and that's what Ann's talking about here, is that the saddle's not designed for a particular size of mule or donkey, because here's the deal. Their size changes based upon how much they've eaten, how much they're working, what time of year it is. So if you design a saddle to fit a particular size, it's only going to fit when that animal is the exact same size that he was at when you measured him for it. Whereas, here's the difference. What did the donkey say to Steve? Steve, tell me if I get this right. The mule and the donkey said, my bone structure is different from the horse. My bone structure is the same on the mule as it is the donkey, and on the donkey as it is the mule. And if you create a saddle to fit my bone structure, by golly, the muscle's just going to fill it in here and there. That fat's just going to fill it in here or there, but the structure is the same. Did I get it right?
Yep, you got it right. I get a kick out of people that try to put padding in certain places
where
they make one place better, but they make another area sore.
Yeah.
Why not go ahead and have a bar that's going to fit the first time and you're done with it,
Yep. Nat's watching, says, howdy, Steve.
That's Nat.
That's Nat.
There's my granddaughter.
There we go. Eileen Easterday, hello from sunny Nebraska. Good to have you here, Eileen. Let's see here. Cowboykin says, hello from Drizzly, Connecticut. Let's see. I think Jason, we shared your picture a little bit earlier on. Jason from Battleground, Washington. Scott Butcher from Kansas City. Will the Cordura Saddle hold a big guy?
Yep. Yeah, we got a lot of big guys in the Cordura. It's not so much that it's a Cordura, folks. It's how that tree and that skirting is made around that tree. But I can also tell you, though, that if you're going to be over that 250-pound range, it's not so much the saddle as it is how much room I have between the pommel and the cantle. And usually, like Marshall New, I was telling you about Mr. New earlier. Yeah. He had to ride a slick fork saddle because a 13.5-inch pommel was too wide, and he couldn't get his thighs in there because his thighs were pretty good size. So. Yeah.
And here's the deal, folks. A lot of times folks will say, what size saddle do I need? What size saddle does my mule need? Well, the size of the saddle for the mule, it's going to be all the same. It's the seat size that really you need to measure for. And if you're curious about the seat size, here about 30 years ago, Steve never thought he'd be selling saddles, never thought he'd have saddles, much less be selling them. All the way to now, selling them over the internet. And one thing you can know is that Steve knows what size saddle you need. And if there's ever any question, you can hop on the phone, 602-999-6853, and you can talk it through. But using your height, your weight, and your gender, he can recommend the right size saddle seat. And it's not the rump size, it's the thigh size. And Steve can explain more of that to you if you talk with him. Yolanda, who is going to get herself a mule saddle, she says, Steve, we made a choice. It's going to be the Cowboy saddle with the leather britchin and the leather pulling collar and the saddle pad Sunset Horizon. Or do I need another one like the triple duty saddle pad? What's the difference maker there? What determines if I need triple duty versus the standard?
Well, the standard usually is what most folks need. But if you get over that 250-pound range, then yes, you're going to want that extra padding in there because the amount of riding and the weight of the person. Or if you have a mule with an elevated spine, a lot of these older mules really they've dropped their loin and this sort of thing, and so they need that extra in there to make up for the muscle loss that they've had. So that would be the only thing, and I'm sure Alonda is nowhere near 250 pounds,
Beth sent a message in. I have your Trail Light saddle and pad. I could not be happier with it. You know what? Hey, what we're going to do, I love seeing these comments. Folks need to see these comments. I am going to take screenshots of these pictures, and I'm going to get them up on the website so folks can just go through and see these comments that come through here. I think that'd be pretty great. There was one more person watching, and I want to make sure that I don't miss them. Kathy Gass from Cotati, California, 85 degrees and sunny. Kathy, we are glad you're here. Let's hop over on YouTube, and let's see. If you own a mule, this is Steve Sparks. If you own a mule, you should have what Steve calls his Come-A-Long Hitch. I grew calling it a war bridle. I have had one for over 40 years and use it on mules of all ages and training. There's a testimonial right there. Folks, you got to have that come-along rope. Use that come-along hitch. Melissa says, so great to learn from the best. Thank you so much. Steve says, my mules are 5'1" and 15'1" and 15'3" small draft mules at 1,200 pounds. We have a Trail Light and a Cowboy saddle, both 16 inches, and they fit great. Awesome, Steve. Really appreciate that. Steve, I got a couple more questions. One here is on side reins. Just very simply, can I use side reins on my mule? Now, I don't know what side reins are, so what are side reins, and can you use them on a mule?
Yeah, it's actually called a side pull, and what it is, really, it's a hackamore. There's not a bit in their mouth, and it's a hackamore, and the rings come from right in behind the corners of the mouth, and you can adjust it up and down, but when you first start out, it should be down lower. Side pulls are a wonderful tool. They're just another way to look at it as a hackamore. Now, if you're not going to use a bit and you want to use hackamores, you want to make sure that your mules and your donkeys work 80% off your legs. The downside, Dave, we were talking earlier about bits and rubber bits and stuff. With a hackamore, any type of nose communication, we have to be very careful because they are very sensitive about their nose. And they will get to where they'll stiffen all 5 major neck muscles and push right through it, and they got you, okay? And it's not their fault. They're just trying to protect themselves. So I'm hesitant at telling people to use any type of hackamore or a side pull or mechanical hackamore, anything that's nose communication, and until you can ride 80% off your legs. I wouldn't use a side pull. I wouldn't use a hackamore or a Bozell. You know, you're gonna create problems. And here's the problem, Dave, with any of this stuff. People take and they say, "Oh, he's doing really good. Look at this. Boy, Steve's wrong. Look at this. He's doing really good." But it's coming. The day's coming to where the mule is going to say, "You know what? I've had enough."
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes down to folks using a mechanical hackamore, side pulls, or a hackamore, you better have good hands. You really got to have good hands. But most of all, you got to be riding off of your legs. That's the most important.
This question from William says, Steve, are stallion donkeys a lot harder to train and work with? Our guy is a standard, a little more than a year old. We purchased a Come-A-Long a while back, and I have a farrier coming every 3 months. Even with the rope, he tends to get very obnoxious. Maybe these are some things maybe I didn't mention right away.
Yeah, well, you know, the Come-A-Long Hitch, Dave, when it's used correctly, is a wonderful tool. A lot of people say, well, it didn't work for me. Well, you didn't use it correctly, and you didn't keep it low down on the nose to start with, and it's also your timing. Now, anytime you have a jack or a stallion, they're not thinking with the proper brain, folks. You know, you can get yourself hurt really serious with one of these jacks. I've trained several jacks. Windy Ridge Maximilian is an awesome jack up in Montana. I had my own jack here. Superstition Jack was his name, and he was a great donkey. But you've got to have an extraordinary firm hand to make sure that they're all right. The average person should not have a jack. If you're going to be breeding, that's one thing. You're going to be showing, that's another thing. But you better make sure you have a good ground foundation with that Come-A-Long Hitch before they start getting out in the public.
Here's the last question that I got. We had a lot of really great conversation questions today, so I just want to thank everybody for coming in. Matter of fact, it was so good. I think usually 2 or 3 times throughout the broadcast, I'll reintroduce us to folks who are just hopping on a few minutes late or whatnot. I totally forgot to do that. It was just great conversation. So that's really a testament to all the folks who are joining us. Thank you. You really make this show a lot of fun. We appreciate it. This one is Karen. Karen says, "Hi, Mule Skinner. Steve, my husband and I went to one of your clinics 20 years ago." Folks, Steve's been doing it longer than that. All right? 20 years ago is a long time. Steve's been teaching and training since, 92?
Yeah, something like that. I think 92 is when
cowboying his whole life.
Official, yeah.
Cowboying his whole life. Started working with the animals around 81, 82, but yeah, 91, 92 started teaching. Went to one of your clinics 20 years ago, and we love you. It's nice to be loved. You even tried to buy my Molly mule, and I said she was $1 million mule and not for sale. I still have her. She is the absolute best equine I've ever owned, and I'm conditioning her right now in case I draw my moose tag here in Colorado. Good luck. I bought one of your trail light saddles with the Cordura fenders. Kenny and I bought a heavier one, and Kenny bought a heavier one, and I also bought your breast collar and britchin, and they still look and act brand new. We love hearing that. My question is, do you make your pads in blaze orange for hunting season? Jackie is black, and with her big ears, she looks moosey. I don't want some idiot thinking it's black, so it must be a moose. She is also going elk hunting, and sometimes, again, some idiots will shoot at anything. I'm going to be contacting you in the next month or so to buy a new saddle pad and front rear cinch, but I need to budget for them. 2 more questions. Steve, my Steve Edwards breast crawler, I've always told it should be snug with only 2 fingers able to be easily under it. Same with my Steve Edwards Beta Britchin. I should only be able to get 2 fingers under it. Is this correct? I've noticed when I have the breast collar snug so I can get 2 fingers under it, it sits higher than your photos. right at where her neck attaches to her shoulders. It doesn't inhibit her breathing at all, but is it okay? I can send photos if you'd like. And then finally, how snug should my back cinch be in proportion to the front cinch? I think you mentioned tight on the rear, loose in the front. How loose on the front? I'm going to order a couple of new cinches from you with my next paycheck. That's a woman right there who understands value. She's got it. That's great. So 3 questions there. Orange saddle pad. How much space for the breast collar up front, positioning, and how much space for the front and back cinches?
Okay, number one, I don't sell orange saddle pads. What I always suggest for people to do when they're riding their mules and horses and donkeys during the hunting season is take orange ribbon and tie it on the halters and tie it on the tail. Because you got to remember, most hunters, when they're shooting, will do neck shots. A lot of hunters do that, and some of them just lung shots in this one. Anyway, the orange ribbon kind of fluttering in the wind really helps out. The reason I don't sell other colors is that it's my pads. The top of it is Duracron, and that's what helps keep that pad solid so that it doesn't move around a lot. I spoke to her, and we do have some video out, and we've got some other pictures on how to adjust the breeching. But basically, it looks like this. Here's your breeching. Here, this is your breeching, and then this is the rump. You slide your hand between the rump and the breeching. That's a 1/2 inch, and then when you pull it back, you should see 1 inch when it starts to get tight. So your saddle is allowed to move 1.5 inches, forward, back, left, and right. No more than that. So your breast collar, 1.5 inches. So you slide your hand down in it, in the breast, and that's a 1/2 inch. You pull it away from the chest. You should see about 1 inch before it gets tight. That's your 1.5 inches. Now, folks, that is only a hypothetical figure to look at. Sometimes you have to adjust it a little bit different than that. You may even have to punch a hole too. Now, she's got my saddles that she's had for 7, 8 years, something like that. She made some changes in that she put billets in the back. She said, "Steve, my saddle's it's not staying in place." And I said, "Yes, you took the latigos off and you put a rear leather cinch on it like a horse saddle, and now the saddle wants to go forward." And that's right. So she's going to change it out, put the latigos back in, put a wide cinch on it like it should have, then she'll do good. Now, also your breeching. Your breeching does not stay in the same place all the time. When you adjust it on flat ground. But when you're going down a hill, now your mule is no longer sitting flat. His back end is going to be up underneath his front end, and therefore then your breeching is going to be longer and the saddle is going to go forward. So when you're climbing up, when you're going down a mountain, get off, adjust your breeching, loosen up the back of the saddle, let some air through it, adjust your breeching so he has to set on the breeching, then your saddle will stay in place. Then when you get to the bottom, readjust your breeching and go. It's kind of like using your brakes on your vehicle. When you're going down a hill, you're going to be using more brake. And when you're going down a hill, you need more breeching.
Very good. Steve, you know what? We got through everything. That's all the questions that we had. So how fun. Folks, I want to show you something real quick. I mentioned this earlier in the broadcast and would love to have you help us out with this. If you look here, Steve, you can't see it, but the folks can see it. Right here, I'm going to put a link in the comment section one more time. When we are done here, I would love for you to go to this website right here, follow that link. It's something called Video Peel, and it allows you to go through and just make a real quick testimonial. If you want to go out there with your mule or your donkey and bring them into the picture too, that's great. But just first off, share about you, your mule or your donkey. The second thing is, what impact has Steve's training and equipment had? And third is, what would you say to someone who is considering following Steve's instruction and training? We really believe that the best way for folks to experience the same level of success and the same level of enjoyment, that that feeling when you've been doing something and it doesn't work and it doesn't work and it doesn't work, and you get the come-along rope, you watch, you get out there, you practice, you try it again, and then finally you get it. You get that 3, you get that 6, you get that 9, you get that 12. That feeling that just bubbles up inside of you, we want more people to have that. Right, Steve?
That's cool. You betcha. That's awesome.
So if you would take a moment and after this broadcast, just click on that link that I'm going to put in there and just upload some videos. They don't need to be great. We can edit them down if you make a mistake. We just want to hear from you. We want to hear your story, and we want to be able to share your story with other folks who are where you used to be a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. Frustrated, burned out, tired, and about to throw it in. Finally, you've learned about the come-along rope, and you got out there and you experienced a little bit of success, and now you're riding and enjoying it like you'd always dreamed. We want that for more people. So I'll put that link in there. Steve, that's all I had. Do you have anything else you want to share?
No, I'm going down to the Andrada Ranch tomorrow afternoon. We're going to be moving cows and going to be shipping on the 14th. The calves and this sort of thing. So if you want to shoot some video, Dave, that's the place to be.
That is
it's also a good place to have a good steak, too.
Yeah. Oh, it is. You know what? So we, me and my family, we want to do some ranch time. We want to do some riding time. And it's one of those deals where I'll tell you what, I enjoy, I don't share much about myself, and that's not why people are here, but I'll share this. I enjoy my wife. Like, I really enjoy being married. I love the relationship that we have. And one of the things with this whole coronavirus and just the change in life is that I'm very grateful that her and I get to talk things out and kind of communicate, and we don't always see eye to eye on everything. And a lot of times people think, well, if you don't see eye to eye, then you must be enemies. No, you're just refining, right? And she's pushing back on me, and I'm pushing back on her, and so we're trying to figure out what it's going to look like for us getting out of the house and kind of starting to reopen. And one of the things that I want to do more than anything else is get back down there at that Andrada Ranch. My boys had such a fun time, and it would be such a treat. So let's figure out a way to make that happen. I'm jealous you get to go there. That's going to be so much fun.
Well, Randy, he always says you're welcome. He enjoys them kids, and you see how much of a grandpa he is. He spent time with them kids, getting them to stand up in the saddle and do different things. That's Randy. He's good people.
Did I tell you that I talked to Cindy about 3 weeks ago?
Oh, did you?
Yeah. She so for those of you who don't know, Randy and Cindy are the managers down there at the Andrada Ranch. They run the whole thing. They make sure that everything is as it should be, and they're fantastic. They do a great job. Cindy is a photographer, and she takes some fantastic photos. Their view down there on the Andrada Ranch is on the side of a mountain, and it's just stunning view. And so Cindy has her camera, and she's been working real hard to get better at taking great shots. So anyway, she wants to share those views with more folks. And so we were talking about how to put her stuff online and some things she should do. So I'll reach out to her again and see how she's doing. But I gave her about 5 or 10 things. I said, hey, if you want to get these out there, you can. Had a really good time chatting. I really like them a lot. They're great folks. We got a lot of great folks in this mule and donkey community.
Yep. Yeah, we do. All right. Well, we'll get some more pictures to you, and folks can see what we're doing down at the Andrada.
Very good. Folks, thanks for joining us. I put that link to record some videos and send them our way. Would love to hear from you. That would be very, very special. If you got a moment, take a moment. Steve, see you next Wednesday.
Happy trails, partner. We'll see you then.
Happy trails, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.